ever watched the Mad Max movies and saw the carnage and savagery being dealt onto the Wasteland from these fiendish groups and thought, where did these bandit groups even come from? Well, that's what I'm going to be talking about in this short video. I'm Pumpkin Petty, and today I'm going to be talking about how these marauding hordes and bandits could have started out within the Mad Max universe. Perhaps some of you already have a good idea on where they came from, but some of you might also be new to the Mad Max universe or the post-apocalyptic genre and are curious on why it is the way it is, so that's why I've made this video. I'll be going over the gang and police force that were seen in the first Mad Max movie, as it contains the world state that all of these hordes led by Lord Humongous and Immortan Joe, as that's where they would have originated from. If you like what you see in the video, then please leave a like because it really does help small creators like myself continue to grow, and comment down below if you have any questions or anything to add because I'd love to hear it. Also, please consider subscribing to my channel if you want to see more of this sort of content when it's uploaded in the future. Thank you. Alright, so in the first Mad Max movie that was released in 1979, it shows us what the initial threat that unchecked biker gangs like the Toecutters gang seen throughout the movie, also called the Zed Runners or the Acolytes, and how they could have brought upon the formation of these marauding hordes in the Mad Max universe. In 1983, most of the Australian police agencies, like the Victoria Police, were overburdened with rampant civil unrest in the more populated cities. Because they couldn't spare the extra manpower, the crumbling government decided to establish a lowly funded special police force of leather-clad Main Force Patrol, or MFP, also called Bronze by the civilians in the Outback because of their bronze badges. Their ultimate goal was to restore order across the major highways in the Australian outback with the hopes that they could combat these roaming gangs and put an end to the criminal activity. Captain Fifi McAfee, who's in charge of the rundown complex called the Hall of Justice, has to do what he can with what he's got, and that isn't all that much. Using unorthodox methods and unethical practices, all as a means to an end in the pursuit of regaining control over the Outback's highways, he allows his officers to shackle their prisoners, as well as use sawed-off shotguns, hunting rifles, as well as some pistols to get the job done, even saying as much as, "So long as the paperwork's clean, you boys can do what you like out there." Although, it should be stated that their equipment and methods are most likely a direct result from the lack of morals and lawlessness seen throughout the end times. The Toecutters gang has many individuals who emit psychotic behavior, like the berserk Crawford Knight Rider Montezino in the opening chase, and also intimidating people like Bubba Zanetti, who's rather quiet and serious in nature. Their horrible behavior, mostly left unmatched over time, has allowed them to kill, steal, and perform many gruesome and horrible acts onto others without answering to no one. Their depravity has made them quite the force to be reckoned with, at least until they meet the story's protagonist, Max Rockatansky, the MFP's most notorious driver with nerves of steel. As ruthless as he is strategic, the philosophical leader of the gang, Toecutter, has shown himself to be the alpha of the pack, as he can corral his acolytes to perform their wicked deeds effectively enough to obtain what they need, and also to act civilized enough so as not to attract any unwanted attention from the MFP when they're not killing, robbing, or committing other nefarious acts. To the individuals within the Toecutters gang, the law is merely a suggestion, maybe even just an interference to the natural order they believe the world has, acting as if they're righteously entitled to whatever it is that they want. Because this gang takes whatever it is that they want and don't require funding, they appear to be more properly equipped than their MFP counterparts, as some have access to firearms like the Smith & Wesson Model 28 .357 Magnum and a pre-World War II Mauser C96 broom handle, seen being used by Bubba Zanetti. Unfortunately for the people of Australia, the collapse in society around them would prove to be too much for the government to be able to regain control, and soon everything would fall into disarray. With rampant banditry coming from many of the punks and biker gangs who've now normalized banditry and hijacking of vehicles for personal gain, the world around them seems almost certain to stay in its current uncivilized state, where most would shoot first and talk second. This would see to those gangs who are now better equipped and more numerous than the government forces to remain rampant and keep harassing others until the eventual disbanding of police agencies and the MFP as they lose their funding or flee to protect their own families from the gangs. Many police officers and soldiers in the military would then keep what firearms and equipment they've obtained during their time serving the government, and then slowly turn into their own groups and gangs out of necessity for survival, playing to the new rules set up by the gangs they were trying to control. Both the gangs, ex-military, and police officers would be the last ones armed well enough to win engagements with other groups of survivors, as they would fare better in combat, especially against others who could only have access to more primitive weapons such as clubs, knives, and projectile weapons. For instance, in the movie Mad Max Fury Road, released in 2015, the story's main antagonist, Immortan Joe, formerly known as Colonel Joe Moore, who was a veteran of the oil wars and became a hero in the water wars. A man who obtained strategic and tactical knowledge from his time in the military would then use all that knowledge for his own personal gain, just like the criminals in the first movie, but had the military knowledge to create a better and more effective horde. Once the world had completely collapsed, he took a more grim and dark approach, just like Lord Humongous of Mad Max The Road Warrior, released in 1981. Lord Humongous was also a military man who used a combination of intimidation and violence to take over after the downfall of the toecutters gang in the Australian outback. Both were capable of leading groups prior to the downfall from their time in the military, and both had formed their own horde out of punks, bandits, ex-police officers, and military who were desperate for survival once the world had collapsed into disarray. In my opinion, Immortan Joe would prove to be more successful because when he started his own biker gang, his numbers would grow in size and strength after each battle with another group. He would capture his opponent's women and also slaughter their leaders, becoming even more feared than a common group. Immortan Joe's gang that started out like any other would over time go from a biker gang to an actual formidable force of fanatic marauders who were the most capable horde around. Utilizing his military knowledge, he would create his own empire when he captured the citadel from his former inhabitants. Albeit after a tough siege, he was immortalized in the eyes of his followers and dubbed the name Immortan Joe for his feat in capturing the Aquifer, aka the citadel, when many had lost hope of gaining victory. During the siege of the citadel, his scouts had discovered 2 locations he allowed 2 of his warlords to operate. The first place would be an abandoned oil refinery named Gastown, led by the People Eater, and the second location being a lead mine called the Bullet Farm, run by Major Kalashnikov, which, coupled with the Citadel's freshwater deposit, Immortan Joe and his fanatic cult of war boys enabled him to found his own post-apocalyptic empire. Alright, thank you so much. That's all I got for you for today, and I just want to say thank you for sticking with me this long. I also want to say that this is my own personal opinion, and there could be many reasons why bandit groups form in the Mad Max universe, as well as just in general the post-apocalyptic world. I will put my sources down below that I used for research, and if you feel like you have a reason why a bandit group would form, please let me know down below because I would love to hear it. If you enjoyed the video, please consider dropping a like and then subscribing if you are interested in my future content when it drops. Thank you so much. Have a good one.